In 1841, Texan soldier Kendall gives an account of finding the whole Kiowa tribe on a creek called Tóň-zó gódal, or Swiftwater River, by the Kiowa. Apparently, it's a head branch of the Pease River in northwestern Texas. Scarcely had we unsaddled our horses and turned them loose before one of our hunting parties came in and reported that a large body of Indians were in our immediate vicinity. Soon another party arrived with information that they had met a small body of Indians, one of whom spoke Spanish. They said that they were Cayugas. These Indians were mounted on fine horses, were dressed in buckskin, and armed with lances and bows and arrows. A short distance above us, occupying a beautiful situation on the same stream, the main camp of the Indians in our neighborhood was discovered. It had apparently been just deserted, the inhabitants in their great haste to drive off and secure their horses, not having time even to cache their other property. Tent poles, skins, numerous rough utensils, besides a quantity of dried buffalo, mustang, and deer meat were found precisely as they had left them. The latter we appropriated to our own use, and in our half-starving condition, it was found extremely palatable. 2 days later, a young man came dashing into camp and announced that a large body of Indians were pursuing a party of our men directly towards us. Scarcely had he finished speaking before firing was heard a few hundred yards distant, a slight roll of the prairie concealing the combatants from our sight. Fast as they could mount horses, a party of some 50 of our men dashed off toward the scene of strife, while the wagons were drawn up in square. Every preparation was made to resist an attack, which was now considered certain. Just as the party of our men, who had gone out to the relief of their companions, reached the spot, that the Indians retreated. But their bloody work was done. Scattered about within the circumference of a few yards were the dead bodies of Lieutenant Hall and 4 of our men, stripped, scalped, and horribly mutilated, while the appearance of the ground gave strong evidence that manfully and with strong hearts they had resisted the attack of their adversaries. They had left camp but a short time previous, probably with the hopes of finding water, and in returning had been thus cruelly murdered. But one look at their mangled bodies was sufficient to stir deep feelings of revenge in every heart, and madly did our men spur their horses in pursuit, with the vain hope of avenging their death. The Indians were at least 4 times our number, yet they retreated, and being far better mounted, were able to keep out of the way. So near, however, that we could plainly see the dead bodies of several of the Indians packed upon horses that they had with them for that purpose. The prairie warriors always have horses especially to carry off their dead or wounded companions, which they take with them on going into action, and it's considered one of the greatest calamities if they are compelled to leave one of their number in the hands of an enemy. The pursuit of the bloodthirsty Kiowas, for such the Indians proved to be, was continued by our men until it was evident that they just could not be overtaken. Several times during the chase, the Indians reined up their well-trained horses on the higher rolls of the prairies and formed in line as if intending to give battle. But before our men could get within gunshot, they were off again with lightning speed across the plain. On returning to the spot where our men had fallen, a closer examination showed how hard and desperate had been the struggle. Lieutenant Hall had received no less than 30 arrow and lance wounds before he fell, and the broken stock of one of Colt's rifles was still retained in the grasp of a stout man named Maybe, plainly telling us that he had fought to the last, and that after discharging the piece, he had still continued the combat. The heart of one of the men was cut out, and had not the Indians been driven off, the other bodies would have been mutilated in the same way. It was evident enough that Lieutenant Hall and his men had retreated from the Indians until they had found it impossible to elude them, and that they had then thrown themselves from their horses in a body and sold their lives at a fearful rate. The resistance they made had probably terrified their adversaries and induced them to fly when they saw our party coming up, although they outnumbered us Texans at least 3 to 1. Well, a party of 50 well-armed men, taking with them shovels, were sent out immediately on the melancholy errand of burying our murdered companions.